All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and talk about exponent rules. So we know an exponent, say x to the fifth, means that there are 5 of them being multiplied together. Or, for example, 3 to the fourth means that there's 4 3's being multiplied together. Our first rule today is our product rule. So if we have something that has the same base letter or value, and they both have exponents, we simply combine them by putting the exponents together. So x cubed and x to the fourth is x to the seventh. We put them together with addition. If you notice, x cubed means there's 3 of them. X4 means there's 4 of them. And when I drop the parentheses, because parentheses are just multiplication, I count them all up and I see that I have 7 total. Let's go ahead and work on some practice problems. So first I'm going to identify any coefficients. Remember, the word coefficient means the number in front of the variables. So I have the coefficient of 6 and the coefficient of 2, and I'm multiplying in between them. So 6 times 2 is simply 12. Ooh, did not mean to do that. Next, I'm going to take a look at all of my variables. I see I have the same variables, so that's great. If not, we'll just approach one at a time. But because I only have r's, I'm going to go ahead and add all of the exponents together. So 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 5 more is 11. So my final answer is 12r to the 11th. Next, I see I have 3 different variables. I have m, n, and p. So because I have these 3 different ones, I'm going to take it one step at a time. So let's take a look at how many m's I have total. To the left, I have 1, and inside the parentheses, I have 2. So I have a total of 3 of them. Next, I'm going to take a look at the n's. I have 2 on the outside and 3 on the inside, so 2 plus 3 gives me 5. And lastly, I'm going to look at the p's. I have 3 on the outside, 3 on the inside, 3 plus 3 gives me 6. Next problem. Whew, I've got A's, B's, C's, and coefficients. So we're always going to start with doing our coefficients first. I'm going to go ahead and take 5 times 6, which is going to give me 30. Then I'm going to start looking at all the A's. So I have 1, plus 5 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. So I have A to the 7th. Next, the B's. So I have 2, 3, 4. And finally, the C's. I have 8, 12, 14. Next one, I have some more coefficients as well, and I just have 2 letters this time, A and B. So I have 4 times 6, which is 24, times 2 more, which is 48. Then I have 6 A's, 7, 8. I have 5 and 8, which gives me 13, plus 3 more is 16. 16 and 8 give me 24, plus 1 more is 25. I have no coefficients in this one, so let's talk about the W's. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 2, 3, 4 X's. 1, 2, 3 Y's. 3, 4, 5, 6 C's. I see I have some coefficients, so let's start with those. I have 2 and 3, which gives me 6. 6 times 2 is 12. I have 2 F's, 3, 4. So F to the 4th. G3 plus 5 is 8. another one is 9, and another one is 10. And then that I've got 4 and 5 H's. So on your nice handy dandy little one-page study guide, go ahead and find your product rule and go ahead and put your example in. Now, yes, there is another product rule, so make sure it just says product rule. Next idea is quotient. And again, we saw products was multiplication, quotients are division. So if I have the same base or the same number taken to exponents, I simply subtract them. My example of x to the 7th and x squared gives me x to the 5th. If I expand it out, I have 7 on top, 2 on bottom, and I cross out the common ones. And the most I can cross out on each is 2. And if you notice, all I have left is 5 on top. All right, so again, we're going to start by identifying coefficients and then letters. So I see in the first one I don't have any coefficients, but I have 10 m's on top and a single n on the bottom. So 10 minus 1 is 9, so I have n to the 9th on top. Next, I'm going to identify the n's. I have 12 minus 5, which gives me 7. And then I have 8 minus 6. Oops, circled a little bit too much on that one. Let's try that one more time. I only have a single p by himself. Now I have 8 and 6, which gives me 2. I have a 12 and I have a 4 as coefficients. So just like when I was dealing with products, I multiplied. Since I'm dealing with quotients, I'm going to divide. So 12 divided by 4 will give me 3. And I started covering up that x, and I didn't want to really cover him up, so we're going to undo that a second. I have 5 x's on top and 1 on bottom, so there's 4 total. I have 1 y on top and 1 y on bottom, so they cross each other out. And then I have 9 z's on top and 6 on bottom, so there's a total of 3. This next one, there's 2 different ways to approach it. We could try and simplify the first part, simplify the second part, and then multiply. Or we could multiply and then simplify. It all works the same. What I like to do is I like to do cross divisions as well. So if there's one on top and there's one on bottom, they can cross no matter if they're in the first set or in the second set. So I'm going to start with my coefficients. I see that I have a 5, a 4, and a 2. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1, and 4 divided by 2 will give me a 2. So for my coefficients term, I have 5 times 2 on top and just 1 times 1 on the bottom, which is 1, and anything times 1 is itself. So I know I at least have a 10 on top. I don't know, there might be stuff on bottom. We might need a fraction on this one. Okay, I have a d on top here. I have 1 d on top on the bottom there, so they're going to cross out. I look and I see there's no other d's to cancel top and bottom. So I have 2 of them left over on top. I can do these 2 e's right here. They're gone. So then I see I have these guys left. 7 minus 3 is 4. Oh, look, we won't even need that fraction line. We're going to have to erase in a moment. And then I look for my f's and I see I have just those 2, so 17 minus 6 is 11. I have to very carefully erase that line. Let's start with our coefficients. I have 6 and 3, so 6 divided by 3 is 2. I think that's the only a I have on top, so he's going to stay there. I have 5 B's on top, 2 on bottom, so I have 3 total on top. I have C9 and C, so I just have C to the 8th. I have 12 D's and 4, so 12 minus 4 is 8 again. My E squareds both cross out. As you can tell, I'm running out of colors. Sorry. I guess we'll go with pink real quick. And then there's a single F and he's located on the bottom. So because he's the only one there, he's got to stay where he's at. This one, we're going to go ahead and start with coefficients. I have 8 and 9. Neither of those are divisible into each other, and there's nothing that can go into either one of them. So we're just going to leave it 8 on top, 9 on the bottom. All right, how many X's do I have total? Well, I can see an X here, so it can cross out with that one. And then I'm left with 3 here and 1 on the bottom, so I'm left with 2 total. Next, I look at my Y's. I'm going to go ahead and take 11 plus 6, which is 17. And then 17 minus 5 is 12. And then I have 20 on top and 7 on the bottom, so I have 13 total. Next one, again, we're going to look at coefficients. The only ones I see are 3 and 4. Let's try and tackle the n's if possible. Ooh, I have an n squared and an n squared, so they're gone. I have these two, so I have 3 and 8, which is 11. 11 minus 2 more is 9. Then I have this m and that m cross out. So I just have 8 left on top. Again, find your quotient rule in your one-page study guide. Make sure it's just quotient rule and not quotient with something else. We like the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1, whether it's a number, a letter, or anything in between. Here's why it works. Say, for example, I have 3 X's on top and 3 on bottom. They both all cancel out, and they don't just cancel to 0. There's one guy left out. There's a factor of 1 on top, a factor of 1 on bottom. And so 1 divided by 1 is 1. Sorry. I don't know why that was such a brain fart, but it was. So let's go ahead and start with coefficients again. My 3's are going to cross out because I have times 3 and divide by 3. So that leaves me with just the 2 on top. If we take a look at the X's, because I like to go in alphabetical order when possible, I have 1 on top and 2 on bottom. So 1 minus 2 is -1, and we'll talk about negatives in a little bit, but we're going to say that he just sits on the bottom because there's more down there. Think about when you're dealing with negative numbers to begin with. If you have more negatives, you're going to end up staying a negative answer. If you have more positives, you're going to stay positive. If you have more on top, you're going to stay on top. If you have more on bottom, you're going to stay on bottom. All right, and then I have 6 Y's on top minus 4 more is Y to the 2nd. And the next problem, I see I have a C to the 0, so he's just going to cross out and go into 1, and anything times 1 is itself, so it's just like he doesn't exist. 7 and 3 do not divide into each other, so we're going to say -7 over 3. Again, there's going to end up being more A's on the bottom, so we're going to leave it that way. It's going to be more B's on the bottom, so we're going to leave it that way. And then there's no other C's. All right, there's your 0 rule. Go ahead and put that in and go ahead and start working.